She walked into the glass-walled conference room at StormCorp. The air turned to ice the moment she stepped in. No designer bag, no heels, no flashy watch. Just a quiet woman in worn flats, a ponytail, and a plain folder held close to her chest. The HR director arched an eyebrow and muttered just loud enough to sting. She looks like she borrowed that outfit from a lost and found box. A slick-haired guy in a pinstripe suit, another candidate, chimed in without hesitation. We're interviewing candidates, not collecting charity cases. Laughter rippled through the room. The panel barely glanced at her resume. Eyes raked her up and down like she was a mistake someone forgot to cancel. But Nina Taylor stood still, face steady, folder in hand. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know the man who built this company from the ground up was her husband. StormCorp's Silicon Valley fortress loomed like a titan, 50 floors of steel and glass, a tech empire that bent the world to its will. The 40th floor interview room was a power hub, long mahogany table, wall-to-wall windows framing the valley, screens humming with data. Nina stepped in, 30, her dark hair loose in that ponytail, her hazel eyes bright but gentle. She was beautiful, grace carved into every line, but her thrift store outfit and scuffed flats marked her a stranger here. Beneath that quiet shell was a mind that could crack code like glass and a heart that didn't bend. She'd clawed through rounds of interviews for a leadership gig, her nights spent refining systems that'd make StormCorp unstoppable, but they didn't see that. They saw a nobody in cheap threads. The panel sat like judges, 5 of them, suits sharp, faces colder than the glass. Diane Brooks, HR director, perched at the head, her red blazer a warning, her blonde bob tight. Greg Palmer, senior exec, lounged beside her, Rolex flashing, pen twirling in his fingers. Tyler Hensley, 28, dynasty brat, smirked in a suit that screamed money, his tie a silk noose. Laura Chen, data strategist, peered through sleek glasses, her lips a thin line. Mark Evans, operations lead, slouched, arms crossed, his buzz cut glinting under the lights. Hundreds had applied. Now it was Nina versus Tyler, but their eyes said the fight was over before it started. Nina handed Diane her resume. Plain white paper, no frills, just her name and a trail of quiet wins. Diane took it, smirked, and slid it to Greg without a glance. He flicked it back, scoffing, "There's no need." The pages skidded across the table, stopping crooked in front of Nina. No relevant experience, average education, wrong major. So tell us, why exactly do you think you're a fit for this company? His tone was acid, like she'd spat on their floor. Nina straightened, voice calm. I've spent 8 years building scalable systems. My last startup tripled its revenue with my framework. I'm here because I can solve problems StormCorp hasn't named yet. Tyler cut in, laughing. Scalable systems? What, like a lemonade stand app? This isn't a pity hire. Diane smirked. She's delusional. Probably thinks a spreadsheet's high tech. Laura leaned forward. What's your degree? Sociology? This is StormCorp, not a book club. Nina nodded. It's computer science with a focus on AI ethics. I've published. Mark barked over her. Published? We don't need homework, we need results. You're drowning here. She tried again. My last project cut processing times by... Tyler drowned her out. Save the bedtime stories, kid. No one's buying. Diane didn't stop. She grabbed a marker from the table and scrawled "loser" across Nina's resume, the black ink bleeding through as she sneered, "That's your title now." Tyler hooted, "Sign it, frame it," while Greg clapped, "She's a masterpiece of failure." The panel roared, phones out filming the defaced pages, and Nina stood there, ink smearing under her fingers as she held it, her flats rooted, but she didn't snap, just let the word hang, her calm a shield against their venom. The venom spread fast. Diane tapped her pen. "You're wasting our air. Did you borrow that skirt from a thrift bin?" Greg chuckled. "She looks like she's dressed for the flea market. Where's the haggling booth?" Tyler leaned back. "Never seen a boardroom, have you? Maybe on a sitcom." Their laughter bounced off the walls, sharp, cruel, a pack closing in. Nina kept her cool. "I'm here to talk qualifications, not clothes." Diane rolled her eyes. "Qualifications? Honey, you don't have any weed touch." Laura smirked. "Try retail, suits that vibe." Mark grinned. "Yeah, stick to the bottom rung. This is big leagues, not a charity drive." Laura upped the ante. She snatched a stapler and fired it at Nina's papers, the metal teeth punching holes as she hissed, "Let's shred the fairy tale." Mark laughed. "Swiss cheese resume," while Diane smirked. matches her holes for brains. The pages tore, staples scattering across the table, and Nina bent to gather them, her hands steady despite the sting, but Laura kicked them off the edge. Trash stays down, her silence a wall they couldn't breach. They piled on. Greg stood. Let's spice it up. A surprise test. Logic and coding right now. No laptop, pen and paper only. Prove you're not a fraud. He shoved a thick packet her way. 10 pages. Problems twisted like knots, the kind that'd break most coders. Nina took it, hands steady. All right. She bent over it, pen flying, equations, loops, proofs pouring out like she'd lived them. 5 minutes ticked. Tyler yawned loud, Diane scrolled her phone, Laura muttered, "She's scribbling nonsense." Nina slid it back. Done. Greg snatched it, skimmed a corner, then ripped it in half. Slow, deliberate, the tear a scream in the silence. He tossed it in the trash. Bare minimum? You're not even close. Total waste. Tyler took it further. He grabbed a water pitcher from the table and dumped it over Nina's head, the icy flood soaking her blouse and skirt as he jeered. "Cool off, dreamer!" Greg cackled. "She's a wet mess now," while Laura snapped a pic. Viral gold. Water dripped down her face, pooling at her flats, and Nina blinked through the chill, her ponytail plastered. But she didn't flinch, just stood there, her strength a fire they couldn't douse. Diane grabbed her phone. "Security now, intruder alert." Tyler laughed. "Escort her out, she's a stain on the room." Mark smirked. "Don't trip, sweetheart." 2 guards stormed in, big black polos, badges glinting. One gripped her arm, the other yanked her folder. Mark escalated it. He snatched Nina's folder from her hands and tore it to pieces, the scraps fluttering like confetti as he barked. "No room for fakes here," Diane cheered. "Rip her dreams apart," while Tyler tossed a pen at her. "Write your sob story somewhere else." The shredded bits hit the floor, her work in tatters, and Nina knelt to pick them up, her fingers steady, but Mark stomped them into the carpet. "Stay down, nobody," her calm a rock they couldn't crack. "Move!" the first growled, dragging her to the door. Nina didn't fight, just walked, flats silent, face composed as Tyler shouted, "Mailroom's hiring!" The door slammed, their laughter seeping through, and the elevator swallowed her. Humiliated, but her spine stayed steel. Greg sealed the humiliation. He yanked a trash can from under the table and dumped it over Nina as the guards pulled her, coffee grounds and crumpled paper raining down as he sneered. "Here's where you belong!" Laura laughed. "Garbage Girl's complete!" While Diane clapped, "Perfect exit for a fraud." The mess clung to her wet blouse, grounds sticking to her hair, and Nina shook it off, her flat slipping. But she didn't break, just walked, her hazel eyes hard, their cruelty a storm she faced unflinching. It didn't stop there. Diane had leaned over as Nina passed, hissing, "You're a joke, go back to flipping burgers." Greg flicked a paperclip at her. "Here's your bonus, spend it wisely." It bounced off her shoulder, clattering to the floor. Tyler stood. "Wait, let's give her a send-off." He grabbed a coffee cup from the table, half full, cold, and splashed it across her blouse, the brown stain blooming fast. "There's your StormCorp welcome," he jeered as Laura clapped. "Perfect, she's brewed now." Nina wiped her cheek, coffee dripping, but didn't flinch, just kept walking, the guards pulling harder. The lobby hit her like a slap, marble gleaming, employees bustling, oblivious to the woman in stained gray being marched out. The guards didn't ease up. One shoved her shoulder, "Keep moving," while the other tossed her folder into a bin by the exit. "Don't come back," he barked, as the glass doors swung open. Nina stepped into the sunlight, coffee soaking her shirt, resumed trashed, but her hazel eyes stayed clear. She'd faced worse than this, years of grinding, proving herself in rooms that didn't want her. This wasn't about pride, it was about every soul they'd crushed before her. She pulled out her phone, dialed Elias. "It's me. It went bad." His voice tightened. "How bad?" She told him, calm, no tears, the coffee, the test, the guards. "I'm coming," he said. "Now." Morning broke with a storm of its own. StormCorp's executive floor buzzed, an emergency meeting, no warning, no mercy. Senior heads poured into the boardroom, 30 of them, suits starched, faces taut, shareholders lurking, a live feed beaming to investors worldwide. The room was a war zone waiting to ignite, mahogany tables stretching endless, screens glowing, the valley sprawling below. Diane sat up front, blazer pristine, Greg twirled his pen, Tyler lounged, tie sloppy. Laura adjusted her glasses. Mark checked his watch. They figured it was a power play. Promotions, raises, their moment to shine. Then the doors crashed open and the world tilted. Elias Storm strode in, tall, 42, dark hair graying at the edges, black suit sharp as a razor, blue eyes cold as ice. The phantom CEO of StormCorp, a billionaire who'd risen from nothing, trailer park kid, coding on a library junker, turning scraps into an empire that owned the tech skyline. Feared in boardrooms from Shanghai to London, he'd been a ghost for months, running things from shadows. Everyone stood, chairs scraping, breaths caught. Beside him walked Nina, same stained blouse, same skirt, flats tapping soft, ponytail swaying, her hazel eyes unflinching. Faces drained. Diane's pen snapped, Greg's clattered, Tyler shrank, Laura's glasses fogged, Mark choked. Elias stopped, voice deadly calm. Sit. They dropped like stones. He scanned them. I gave this team one job. Evaluate candidates for leadership so I could spot who's ready to rise, but yesterday you didn't interview a candidate. He paused, the silence ablade, then turned to Nina. You insulted my wife. Gasps punched the air. Diane's hand shook. Greg's jaw hit the table. Tyler's chair squeaked as he curled in. Elias stepped closer. Nina and I built StormCorp from dirt. 2 broke kids, no sleep, no cash. I wired the hardware. She forged the AI. Every system you cash in on, her mind's the root. You didn't just miss a resume. You humiliated the woman I love most. He pointed. Diane, Greg, Tyler, Laura, Mark. Repeat what you said yesterday. Now, to the board. The room choked. Diane stammered, I didn't... Elias cut her. No dodging. Speak. A tech flicked the screen. Security footage, raw and loud. Diane's hiss. She looks like a student applying for a part-time job. Tyler's cackle. Janitorial services. Where's the mop? Greg's sneer. No experience. Wrong major. Laura's jab. Try retail. Mark's quip. Out of her depth. Greg again. Dressed for the flea market. Tyler's finale. Mailroom's hiring. The boardroom froze. Shareholders shifted. Investors glared through the feed. The words, a death knell ringing. Diane's red blazer was a shroud now, her marker a noose. She'd defaced the woman whose code ran their empire, and her hands shook as she faced the board, her smug hiss replayed for millions, her career a smoking ruin. Greg's Rolex dangled useless, his coffee splash a chain. He'd soaked the brain behind their profits, and the trash he'd dumped buried him, his name blacklisted to oblivion. Tyler's pinstripe suit hung limp, his water dump a scar. He'd drenched the soul of StormCorp, and his dynasty's doors slammed shut, his laughter a ghost as investors jeered. The screen burned their shame into history, every sneer, every jab, a nail in their coffins, Nina's quiet rise their executioner. Elias didn't flinch. You tore her test, solved perfectly, faster than you'd dream. You threw coffee, you called security. Say it again. Diane's lips quivered. I can't. Tyler stared at his shoes, mute. Greg rasped, mistake. Laura whispered, we didn't know. Mark croaked, sorry. Elias leaned in. Sorry's nothing. You showed me who you are. Small, cruel, blind. StormCorp doesn't carry trash. He nodded to security. Same guards, same polos. Take them, they're finished. The room held its breath as the guards moved. Diane's blazer dragged, Greg's Rolex dangled, Tyler's tie flopped, Laura's glasses slipped, Mark's buzz cut bowed. The fallout was a wildfire. Diane, Greg, Tyler, Laura, Mark fired on the spot, badges ripped, marched out as the board watched, shareholders nodding, investors typing furious notes. Laura's glasses couldn't hide her fall, her staples a weight. She'd shredded the work of StormCorp's architect, and now her resume was the trash, her smug pics a viral curse as the industry spat her out. Mark's buzz cut bowed low, his folder tearing a brand. He'd ripped apart the woman who'd built their world, and his stomp echoed as he hit rock bottom, begging beside Greg while Nina's coin glinted in his palm. The boardroom's silence roared with their ruin. Every laugh, every cut, a boomerang that smashed them. Elias's calm wrath and Nina's steady gaze the gavel dropping, their own words the rope that hanged them. StormCorp blacklisted them, names torched across the industry. No firm would touch them. Resumes shredded, calls blocked, LinkedIn profiles dead air. Diane's blazer hit a thrift rack. Greg's Rolex pawned for rent. Tyler's dynasty disowned him. Laura's glasses sold for scraps. Mark's swagger crumbled to dust. Their titles, their reps, their lives erased in a heartbeat, all for sneers at a woman they didn't see. 6 months later, rain lashed a downtown station, commuters rushing, umbrellas snapping. Greg Palmer slumped against the wall, once a StormCorp exec, now unshaven, coat torn, a cardboard sign shaking in his hands. Please help. His Rolex was gone, his sneer a faint echo, his fingers trembling in the cold. Heels clicked. Nina, hair still in that ponytail, now in a navy coat. Her presence a quiet storm. She'd just keynoted at an AI ethics summit, her voice bending the future while his broke apart. She paused, reached into her pocket, pulled a quarter, shiny, cold, and dropped it into his palm. It glinted, the guy who'd ripped her test, now clutching her coin. She met his eyes, a faint smile flickering, then walked on, flats tapping steady, her strength a silent thunder. That coin wasn't pity, it was justice, cold and sharp. Nina didn't need to scream. She let their own rot bury them. She'd forged StormCorp's heart, and they'd spat on it, until Elias turned their world to ash. Now she stood taller, while they sank low, a lesson carved in their fall. If you've ever been judged by how you look, hit like, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that hit deep.